Do you need answers for insurance questions like, when I'm towing my camper, if it comes off the hitch and someone hits it, which one of my insurance will cover my camper? And what happens if someone gets hurt? Or how about a question like this one? What does it really mean when I say I want full coverage on my auto? The answers to these questions and more will be discussed tonight on Understanding Insurance. Well, good evening, everyone. Today is Thursday, May 23rd, 2019, and welcome to Understanding Insurance, a live video blog brought to you by Guyor Insurance Agency and IBU. And I want to thank y'all tonight for joining us. You know me, I'm always pushing buttons. Good evening. How is everyone doing tonight? Well, tonight I hope it's kind of be not much on the news, but we're going to explain some things about with the Memorial Weekend coming up this weekend. A lot of folks are going to be on the road. You'll be pulling some campers, some boats. Some of you will be pulling both behind a vehicle. Good luck with that. But we'll discuss all that stuff. But I want to introduce myself. My name is David Guyor, and I'm the owner of Guyor Insurance Agency and Vice President and Marketing Manager for Insurance Benefits Unlimited. And like you all know, every week we have been airing at 8 o'clock, and our purpose, and as you can see, what was the purpose of our weekly video blog? It was first to help and educate folks like yourself about insurance, the things that we have multiple policies with: car insurance, home insurance, health insurance. It seems like all of us are insurance poor. So we had that. The second, I wanted to prove to you I wanted to be your insurance agent, and I still do. I hope that you can look back through my Facebook page and see all of our video blogs that we started since since March. But it's summertime. I know for our son, he is out. He's not going tomorrow. Most folks' kids are out for the summer after tomorrow. And so with that being said, I'm looking at possibly not doing any video blog like this during the summertime. I know we're going to be traveling a lot. Y'all are going to be traveling. So it's just kind of hard during the summer, especially when the sun's not setting. Seeing out the window here, it's still up. The sun's not up, but it's still bright out there. So that's what I'm thinking, is just taking a little hiatus during the summer and then come back afterwards. But I want to hear from you guys. Here's my contact information. If you enjoyed this and you want to learn more or see more, I'd like to hear from you. I mean, just email me, send me a text to that number. But if not, what I think I'm going to do is do maybe a 2 or 3 minute blogs that I'll put out there on Facebook. We also have our YouTube channel set up, so we'll probably put those things out there. So ultimately, summer's coming. Matter of fact, we're leaving next week. Cole and Lauren, that is my nephew, and soon to be, I guess, I don't know how Lauren would be involved with me, but they're getting married in North Carolina, so we're taking that long trip, and we'll actually be on the road next Thursday because we're going to try to split up the break. So yes, that's where we're going to be. But today, let's just keep going. Today's topic is Auto Insurance 101. Youth drivers are coming. And I know that might not sound very attracting right now in the sense of, oh, car insurance. Who really wants to hear about that? But let me tell you, there's quite a bit to learn when it comes to things that are changing in our car world. But first, insurance news that matters. Not much going on today or this week. I found this picture. This was actually on the insurance journal. I subscribe to that all the time so that I can see and learn and teach y'all what's going on. But Congress agrees on a $19 billion disaster aid bill with flood insurance program benefits extension. So, I try to find news topics that interest us or that has an impact directly to us Arkansans. And if any of you go over the Arkansas Bridge, you will see we still have quite a bit of water out there. I'm hoping to go down so I can go fishing, but lawmakers said that they agreed to a $19.1 billion disaster aid bill after months of disagreements, and that President Donald Trump said he would sign it. So the Senator Appropriation Chairman Richard Shelby called the agreement a good deal, and he added that he spoke to Trump today and that the president said he liked it as well. It was okay. The disaster bill would provide relief for areas hit by hurricanes, the Midwest flood, and of course California's wildfires. And Southern lawmakers have been clamoring for relief for the farmers in states hit by Hurricane Florence and Michael, and which wiped out quite a bit of, I guess, timber and pecan crops in Alabama and Georgia. So this bill would include $900 million for Puerto Rico, Shelby said, and it would also extend through September 30th the National Flood Insurance Program, which expires at the end of the month. So I actually quoted a flood policy for someone this week, and my underwriters were kind of busy. We're getting a lot of rain. I can remember snow, but we're getting more rain than we get snow nowadays. But today's topic, like I said, is Auto Insurance 101. Youthful drivers are coming. But first, I want to answer the questions we had tonight, which was when I'm towing a camper, what's going to be covered? I'll get over here to my slides so you can see what I'm talking about. Campers, there we are. So when I'm towing my camper, and this was a question that was posed to me today, if it comes off the hitch and hits somebody, which one of my insurance will cover my camper, and then what would happen if someone gets hurt? So, with our first holiday for the summer arriving this weekend, I've had a few calls about people's coverage. They kind of want to check in on their campers. That seems to be what's hitting the road. But another reason why we're going to cover this is the Auto Insurance 101 is because there's a lot that connects your auto insurance when you're towing campers or other things like boats. So the answer to the question is auto insurance pays for the bodily injury. If that trailer you're seeing on the back of that truck falls off the hitch, if there's bodily injury, someone slams into it and they're hurt, your auto insurance bodily injury will cover it, but the camper insurance will cover the camper itself. But the camper should be an RC. If any of you have listened to some of my vlogs earlier, we covered about home insurance. And RC stands for replacement costs. ACV stands for actual cash value. So if you expect your camper to have a full replacement, if you've had a loss, then you might want to check on your coverage and check with your agent. Most agents will write an ACV, which is like your vehicle, an actual cash value. What that means is if that camper, you can see that camper, if that camper you paid $5,000 for it, it actually depreciates every year, and just like your auto does. So like I've got a good client of mine, matter of fact, we went to high school together. He's bought, I think he's on his second or third one. The most recent one was a newer one. So I convinced him, hey, we need to do a replacement cost, and since he had it financed, we even did a gap coverage because that would be devastating. Trailers, boats, motorcycles, autos, once you pull those things off the lot, they are already depreciating, so you want some gap insurance. So to stay focused is an ACV policy is what most people put on. Insurance agents have a tendency to put y'all's campers on, especially if it's older. And you can see this one looks kind of old. And it's definitely cheaper. And that kind of goes into our second question is what hang on. What does it really mean when I say I have full coverage on my car? That is, that's amazing how the car insurance industry it's like healthcare. It's so broke. But the question is what is full coverage on my car? Most people who were born, I say pre-1990, I think they know what full coverage meant, which was which we always call it the works. That was liability, property damage, uninsured bodily injury, uninsured property damage, underinsured bodily injury, medical expense, work loss, accidental death, comprehensive collision, roadside, and rental. Those were the big items when we thought about full coverage. But here's the big but. I've noticed a couple of changes over the last 10 years now. Most drivers today say, I want full coverage, but what they're wanting is really the state minimum liability, which our state says it has to be 25, 50, 25, which I'll explain what all that is. And most folks are financing their vehicles, even if it's a used one. And so that when they say they want full coverage, what they're saying is, hey, I need liability so that I can get my tags from the state, and I have to satisfy the company that's financing my car, and I have to have collision and comprehensive. And so then I get that call, which I get not too often because I do go through it with my clients, or even new ones, is, hey, my car, I just broke down, or I got in an accident, and you get it towed. And they assume, and that's the problem, they assume that when they said I want full coverage, they assume that that towing comes with it. And so that's what we're going to do. So tonight's topic, like I said, is going to be, let me get over to our slides, is going to be, there you go, Insurance 101. 101. So let's get right to it. So what we're talking about is, this is a copy of a declaration page, which AKA we call them in the industry a deck page. You get this in the mail every time your policy renews. Most policies renew every 6 months. That is so that the insurance companies can go ahead and put any rate increases quicker to you than those that have year. Most of my combined insurance, what I mean by that is I've got their homeowners and their auto, is a year policy. So that locks you in at a rate for at least a year. But most policies like Progressive and so on, they're just 6 months policies. But this is a declaration page, and you will get this in the mail, and it will break down. That they're not as clear as this. I just looked at one today, and it was pretty nasty. It took me a while to look through it. But what is the liability? First, number one is the amount of the policy pays if, let's get to that slide. There you go. This is the liability aspect of it, and this is what is actually paid in case there is an accident, someone's hurt. So when we said, like I said earlier, 25, 50, 25, the 25, 50, 25 is really this and this together, okay? So what I mean by that is 25, 50, 25 is what our state's minimum is, which is $25,000, which goes to, just for one individual, or you could go up to $50,000, which again is our state minimum. This one's showing $300,000. That is a total that the policy would ever pay out. So if there's multiple people in a vehicle that you hit, then it would pay out over $300,000. And of course, the second one, which was the property damage, that's how much it would pay if you were to hit a vehicle, or a vehicle you hit the vehicle and they hit another vehicle, or so on. So when we say 25, 50, 25, and in this sense 100, 300, 100, then that's the kind of coverage that the state requires from you, and I always suggest a higher limit. And let me read this why. Here's where we want to add those youthful drivers. Okay, there's younger drivers now. They're 15 years old and they have these hardship licenses. And if you have a child that is going to be that 15-year-old, or as I always would tell some of my, what would I call them, insureds that had let their insurance lapse, and I kind of knew they were just taggers, which is someone just getting insurance enough to get the tags, I would rather sell them the minimum, the 25, 50, 25, than to turn around and let them drive around with no insurance, and especially if they got a 15-year-old that's driving around. But they're unexperienced. You know, one of my kids was asking about, oh, I want to get a motorcycle. It's really inexpensive. And I said no. And the reason why is because they're inexperienced with 15-year-old drivers out there with hardship license that have the right to drive to work and to school, and they're just not experienced. And so I actually had a friend of mine that his 15-year-old son, they live here in Sherwood, and his son drove to Little Rock for school. So you gotta have to look at these limits. And we talked about this property damage. Again, think about the things that one would hit, or your youthful driver would hit. Suburbans today are 50,000 plus. What about if you hit a vet? Vets are running 75,000 plus. So that's where this is important. You can get cheap now, but it's going to get you eventually. I always tell, I think my two oldest ones had gotten into an accident, and I basically said, I said that's exactly what it is. It's an accident. It didn't mean to happen. So it's important that people understand that this is, when we have young drivers, we have more drivers than we've ever had. That was my excuse for the kid, or for our son Wells, who wanted a motorcycle. I said, no, there's just too many drivers now. There wasn't that many back in the 80s, but everybody's driving now. More people moving into town. So you got to keep that in mind. And again, these critters, they drive very expensive things as well. And cars and light poles are not cheap. So your property damage is important to think about when you hit somebody and they hit somebody in front of them, and then what happens if they hit a light pole. So don't get cheap on this stuff, folks. The next slide is, where is it? Here we go. These things are called, you'll see work loss, you'll see right here accidental death, and then another one which is the medical expense. What you might find on your policy is something called PIP, which stands for Personal Injury Protection. Now this is for you, just what the word says, personal injury protection. More and more health insurance plans are very adamant about not paying for one's auto accident. And what I mean by that is your health insurance is for something that isn't caused from a car accident. So you need to look at having this PIP, and you've got a work loss, you've got an accidental death, and medical expenses. And like I said, that's for anybody occupying that vehicle. The work loss, basically, I think it's kind of cheesy, depending on your policy, well, who the carrier is. It could pay from $140 to $200 a day while you're in the hospital. You've got the medical pay right here. I put that one up first. It is really for, hang on, let me get that out of the way. Right there is the medical pay. Is this one shows $10,000. Most of them are $5,000. That's per person in the car. Doesn't have to be a relative. It can be just a driver. And trust me, folks, I get a lot of, my most recent one recently was a church member, had another church member in the vehicle, got in an accident. The passenger had some neck problems. I get a call from a law firm where they wanted information on my insured, and so the one didn't understand that lawyers are going after not just the driver but also the person that hits them. So that's what lawyers do, is they go after all the money. So the medical expense, and then you've got the death benefit. I've only had one. Look how cheap that is, $2. I actually met somebody years ago that their daughter was killed in a car accident, and she was old enough to choose her own, she was purchasing her own policy, and so she She didn't do the personal injury protection, and unfortunately she rolled the car. It was between Cabot and Beebe, and it killed her. And so there was no life insurance on her. And so this couple was a little upset that the agent wasn't informative, possibly. I mean, I hate to be blunt, but I deal with it all the time, where people just, it's all about price now. It's not about what it used to be 20 years back. It was about quality of insurance. Is it a good, AAA rated carrier? Do I get a lot of coverage with it? Now it's all about, well, I'm paying $700 for this car payment and I just can't afford, $300 a month. And so people are going cheap. I mean, like I said, you got to call it like you see it, and that's exactly what's going on. So the next item on the deck page is right here, uninsured motorists. Okay, this deck page shows 100, 300. So what that means is if I hit you and I don't have insurance, your insurance policy, if this was it, would pay up to $100,000 to fix your half-dead body, or up to $300,000 to fix everybody's body. And then the next part is the property damage. These are two big things that I push to people because there's a lot more than you think of uninsured motorists driving around there. And this is going to take care of your vehicle. Now, is this a high limit? Yeah. I mean, who needs $100,000? My car's only worth probably $25,000. But it's just the insurance and how packages are sold. So sometimes you can get this brought down to $50,000, but this is what actually is awarded to you if there was a loss. And then we have the underinsured motors. Now, to me, like I say about insurance is nothing but passing the risk onto a company or onto someone else. And so with that being said, underinsured, I'm not real, my coverage is pretty much going to take care of me. If I could leave something out, I will leave out the underinsured motorist. But like I said, that takes care if someone doesn't have insurance. And then comprehensive. Okay, this is something that I had a call on this week. And this is where you get, people are like, well, what's comprehensive exactly? This is what covers your auto from hail damage. How about a tree limb falls on it? You've seen the commercial, The Mayhem Man. Hitting a deer. I mean, during deer seasons, folks like myself are out running around, shooting at the Bambis of the world, and they seem to run across highways when you shoot them. Floods. We have lots of flooding going on, so if you happen to accidentally drive into a flooded road, your comprehensive coverage would cover it. Theft. Someone breaks in and steals your vehicle. We covered last week or a couple weeks ago about the content. That would be under your homeowners. And this also would cover the windshield, and that was the call I got this week. The key thing is most folks, as you've seen on the slide, are choosing, the same rate, the deductible, I should say, as they do with their collision. But you need to talk to your agent because you can actually change that right there down. And matter of fact, I was talking with one of my carriers, and they have where you could do $250, which is what I do, but you could have a windshield deductible of $0. And that was what the call was about, gentlemen. It got hot this week, and if you got a crack and it gets more than a dollar bill wide, there's nothing you can do. But the heat, it cracked his windshield, and he wanted to know about that. And his deductible, unfortunately, was $1,000. So there's nothing we could do there, except most windshields are about $350 or so. And then collision. I think everyone pretty much knows what that is. That is if you hit something and you need to fix your own car. But here's the thing. If you see some of these buildings with brick missing, I'm seeing more folks running into buildings. What about light poles? My wife was accused of doing that back when she was young, 16. This would have been back in the 80s. So what about if you hit somebody that turns around and hits someone else, and then they hit someone else? So your collision, again, this is all about you. So you would have to pay that if you wanted to get your car fixed. And then rental car. Here's something I want people to kind of keep in mind. You can't get a car for $30 anymore. It's hard to rent a car for $30. So I would, if you are one that drives quite a bit and that risk is a little higher for you, then I would possibly look at raising that. You can get like $50 with a maximum of $1,500 max, but that first number 30 is what they will pay per day for an auto. Most people would have to pay more, and that's what's happening. Remember, the consumer's going to start taking more of the risk with insurance. Insurance is it's getting too high, and that's why people make some of these decisions. And then that second number, that 900, that's how much the policy would pay out total. So if your car's in the shop for quite a few days, 2 weeks, you could eat that up pretty quick. And then, of course, the roadside assistance, which most of us know that's your towing and all that other stuff. Again, here's the limits. This is where it costs you money. The higher the limits, the higher these rates are. Look at what this is a 16 Tahoe on a younger person that I pulled this out of, and it's $604 just for liability. It's a Tahoe. It's big, it's bulky, it does a lot of damage to people and things. So that's another thing that I talk to people. If you have a relationship with your insurance agent, that's really good, because I have clients that I say, hey, before you buy that next vehicle, or especially if you got a youthful driver, before you buy that vehicle, let's run the VIN number through and tell you exactly what those rates are. So when you see this $600 plus $400 is because it costs a lot to fix one of these things. They're collapsible cars nowadays. They're made to help protect us, but they do cost money to fix. So you look at those, and to kind of finish it off, I call it David's pick. Okay, when you think about, and when I think about when I talk to people about insurance, I said it just earlier, if it's somebody that I'm meeting for the first time and they're in, I'm going to ask them, when's the last policy you've had? We've got to put it in the system, because the insurance carriers actually will give, if your insurance is lapsed, they're going to ding you, usually about 15%, 10 to 15%. But the longer that person goes without insurance, I start thinking, hey, that means this person can possibly be out driving that would hit my child. So I might not necessarily sell them a big package, full coverage, as much as these items. They have to have the liability and property damage. That's what our state requires for you to get a tag. But this uninsured motorist and uninsured property damage, that's in case someone hits them or you and they don't have insurance. And then, of course, most of us, our vehicles are financed. So we've got to have collision, comprehensive's good, and then, to me, look how cheap it is. $38 for rental. This is actually this policy is a year. And look what roadside assistant was, $13 for the year. Go back up to that accidental death, $2. $5,000 life policy for $2 a year. So you need to and I hope that this is kind of helping y'all understand about when you get that declaration page in the mail, time for renewal, look at what it costs you, because you might find out, hey, I could add this extra stuff. I used to always write people, the taggers, and I hate to use that word, but they just come in, they just need insurance. You hope they stay with you, but they'll get that insurance card, run down, get tags, and then they don't make the next payment. We get a charge back. We don't get any money off of a thing. I think we get $20, and that's about it. And it's just really not worth the hours that you spend pushing paper around and all that stuff. But ultimately, I try to get people, I listen to what they have to say. I have to judge them and make a decision. Hey, let me educate you just like I just did now, but let's find a policy that you can stay with, and in the long run you're going to get cheaper rates, because the insurance companies, they're penalizing people for not carrying consistent coverage. So I hope tonight's show was educational for you. I know that it's summertime and lots of folks are going to be out and about this weekend. I want y'all to be careful, and remember, we have vacation. Vacations are coming. Be careful out there. But the last thing I do want to say is that what I said earlier is we'll probably quit doing our live video blog at 8 o'clock. We'll take a little hiatus for the summer. Look forward to possibly 2 or 3 minute little vlogs during the week that if it's something real important. Enjoy your summer, but I always say this, remember, your insurance policy can only be as good as the agent who services it. So it has been a delight having y'all stay tuned to all this this mayhem that I create with this blog. I hope it's been very educational, and I hope to see you guys soon. You know, maybe we'll come back here in fall and do pick it up. But please let me know. Here's my contact information. If you know anybody or yourself is looking for an agent or would like to get a quote, I'd love to talk to you. Have a great evening.